Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another fantastic episode of Idiosyncratic Fables, where my whole point is to just strongly emphasize that everybody has a story to tell, and I want to hear yours, regardless of how small it is, regardless of how large it is. It could be any story under the sun, something about you, something that happened to you, or even just a story that you loved growing up. For example, anything by Shel Silverstein or The Giving Tree. Ah, I could shed many a tear over The Giving Tree. But you get the idea. Any story matters. But if it's near and dear to your heart, then by all means, bring it to me. I want to hear about it, and I want to talk to you about it as well. Before we get into this month's guest, which, oh my goodness, I'm so excited about, give it a little bit of about me, of what happened in the month of July, play some catch up, housekeeping, you pick your euphemism. July was crazy busy for me. I had two sci-fi books back to back, plus a nonfiction, plus the fantastic release of my first ever lit RPG, which was technically June, but July was awesome to see the fruit of it and just all the people interacting with Elsewhere by Doug Losey, who, if you listened to last month's episode, we talked all about his book and how he got involved and all of that fun stuff. Very excited to see where we're going to go with books 2, 3, 4, and 5 in the Elsewhere series. But that is a different conversation for another day. Forward looking for me from the month of August, I have, I'm going to be finishing up War and Dungeons by Doug Losey, jumping right into a historical fiction called South to Freedom, and then starting a brand new sci-fi called A Marine's Path, which I'm really looking forward to that one. But that is it for the month of August as far as audiobooks go, because I've purposely squared away some time off so that way I can take care of my garden. I've got some wood chips I've got my eye on, some fresh compost, because my strawberries, my elderberries need it, and wifey wants some flowers, so by golly, we're going to plant some flowers, and we're going to make it happen. It's going to be great. But we're not here to talk about flowers. We're here to talk about very engaging stories, and do I have a whopper of an author for you? This man is a multi-genre author. You can find all of his stuff on Amazon. He has awards, he has adaptations, plus, we're going to get into the nitty-gritty, which is chock full of good stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, my honor and privilege to introduce to you author Aaron Ryan. Aaron, thank you so much for being on the show today, sir.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, buddy.
Yeah, man. So, right out the gate, question number one for you, as we all want to know from every author, what inspired you to become a writer? And when did you realize this was something you wanted to pursue seriously?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's no mistake and no surprise. Massive Lord of the Rings fan. So right here, I just want to I want a disclaimer that this is not the One Ring. Just see, I'm still here, still here. But I don't think that I was ever really so world changedly impacted by The Hobbit. I loved The Hobbit, but man, when I dove into the Lord of the Rings, and I was just like a pre-zit faced prepubescent back in the early 80s, I picked up Lord of the Rings and my world was absolutely changed. And it wasn't so much a, hey, if J.R.R. Tolkien can do it, so can I. Because that's a pretty audacious statement to make because it's J.R.R. Tolkien.
Quite so.
Yeah, but that seriously inspired me, and that was from a very young age. I loved the world building. I loved the character development. I loved just the pure story. And I thought I'd love to do that someday as well. So I've dabbled in a lot of different areas through the years, obviously, as you know, but have come full circle back to authoring, and that's my storytelling gift.
I love that. So you've written across several genres, sci-fi, dystopian, thrillers, even children's books.
Yep.
What draws you to each one, and do you approach them differently?
Yeah, I think you have to. I mean, I've got 9 and 6-year-old sons, and so my oldest boy, the 9-year-old, by process of deduction, that would be the the oldest one.
I would hope so.
My oldest boy, the 6-year-old, not the 9-year-old, um, the 9-year-old, anytime he does something wrong, which he's a little boy, he's learning, he thinks I'm a bad person. And my wife and I are very clear to affirm him and say, buddy, we're upset with what you did, not who you are. There's a huge difference. So I was very motivated. One night I was telling him a bedtime story and he fell asleep. So it was either incredibly peaceful or incredibly boring. He fell asleep, but I remember telling him that story and then pulling away and going, "Wow, God, thank you, Lord, for that story. That I've got to write this down because that was really cool." Um, so that was the genesis of writing children's books, and I don't know why I didn't see this coming, but I brought that book home when it was all done for my oldest boy, and I said, "Here you go." And my youngest boy goes, "Hey, that's great, Dad. Where's mine?" And
Oh,
I was like, "Oh, I didn't know why I didn't see it coming." So I made number two for him, and then of course you've got to do a trilogy. So that's the genesis of those. I I am a voiceover artist. I've been for many, many years, but the voiceover industry is changing. So as such, I've pivoted to authoring, and I want to be a storyteller. We were watching I Am Legend for like the umpteenth time. This is in 2023, and I saw weeds growing up through the cracks and lions roaming the street and a ghost town. And I thought, what if that? What if the precursor for that was not a vaccine gone wrong that resulted in rabies, but an alien invasion? And thus, I set out to write a story about an alien invasion that took over the Earth, and that resulted in Dissonance, and I've been writing ever since.
that's fantastic. So, can you talk about the first book you ever published and what that experience was like for you?
Well, I published it and then I quickly unpublished it because I was way too young to have published an autobiography. It was like, who am I? It was really probably a classic case of imposter syndrome in my 20s.
Right.
Um, I had gone through a lot and been through a lot and experienced a lot. And I thought, what the heck, let's try that. Unpublished it. Then I published a book of poetry, which I also unpublished. Um, and I think the first official book that I published was a book in the voiceover industry. It was a business book called Voiceovers: A Super Business, A Super Life, and it was a compendium of a lot of independent chapters and a lot of the blogs that I had written as a voiceover blogger. It gave way to a trilogy. I really enjoyed the process of self-publishing, and as an author, having to choose between self and traditional publishing. Self fits me like a glove. There's a lot of drawbacks to approaching and being signed by a trad pub, traditional publisher for the layman. They take way too long. You have to give up creative control. You can command higher royalties as a self-published author. I just Self-publishing fits me much more as an entrepreneur. So I've every single book has been self-published and by choice. I love it that way.
Awesome. What would you say a typical writing day looks like for you? And do you follow a strict schedule or is it more spontaneous?
Um, uh, Difficult, yes. 5 and no. I think I answered all your questions there. Um, uh, Ultimately, man, it's hard because as a fellow voiceover artist, you're a doctor with a pager and you're going back and forth with auditions. So I bounce back and forth. I have a dual storytelling career. So one is I'm telling other people's stories in there, and then I'm telling my own stories right here. So when I'm not doing auditions or a paid job, I am either marketing heavily. I can't tell you how much I've spent. I don't want to, because then it'll remind me how much I've spent. Um, but it's so worth it. It's an investment, not an expense. But I'm constantly pounding the keys for a new story or a promotion or marketing of that story or a previous story, um, hammering away at it. I will say that there's a certain urgency that the voiceover industry has propelled me into with authoring because voiceovers are just not what they used to be. The career isn't what it used to be. So, thus, I've pivoted to authoring. And my first real book as a fiction author uh, was Dissonance Volume 1 Reality. It was published only January 1st of last year, 2024. I wrote that book in 3 weeks and I had it published in 3 weeks and then fine tuned it and had it ready first of the year. So it goes real quick.
Okay. So, speaking of dissonance, how do you approach world building, especially in a complex series like the one in Dissonance?
I really I think what I fell in love with again about I Am Legend was that it's modern day. It's overrun. Now, in Dissonance's setting, the novel is set in 2042, 16 years after an alien invasion. When an alien invasion takes over planet Earth and kills off 85% of the inhabitants, and the
Mm,
rest are living underground and eking out an existence in the shadows, there is no forward innovation. There's no forward momentum. We're arrested development and stuck as a civilization. So I would wager that the Earth of 2042 looks a lot like the Earth of 2026, which is when the aliens came because killed a lot of us off, and everything is the same. So, as far as world building, it was basically the same, just in shambles and overgrown. That wasn't hard. What I loved doing, though, which really helped, was literally threading my way through Google Maps, aerial view, threading my character's way through the streets of Clarksville, Kentucky, and seeing where they go. And I can have them go into this building here, and it's almost like playing an arcade game.
right.
Um, but everything is dilapidated. Everything is broken down in a shambles. So the world building wasn't too complex. I just had to figure out a way to get them through what would be a lot of debris, um, stuff like that. The other novel series, The End, is similar in that respect. I think the one that I'm working on that's the most challenging right now is the current work in progress, the Phoenix Experiment, because it takes place in the 25th century aboard a an orbiting starship called the Origin, hovering over Earth, and it's from a much younger protagonist than I. So it's a different setting. It's a sterile, antiseptic medical facility that is far different from the world of Dissonance. So it's a challenge, but I'm enjoying it.
Awesome. So, do you outline your books heavily, or are you more of like a discovery writer, like by the seat of your pants?
No, I'm a pantser at heart. There are two styles, obviously. One is a planner or a plotter, and those guys like to use index cards and bullet points galore, and you have to have flow charts, and this is connected to that, and you that doesn't work for me. I would get caught up in those and like tangled up in the threads. My wife would find me, where's my husband? He's hung up out here. I actually am much more of an organic writer. I like to learn as I go along. And one of the greatest phrases I ever read, and I wish I could remember who it was. It's a Russian writer. He said, if you want to find out what your character is like, you want to get them up a tree and then throw rocks at them. It's going to reveal a lot about that protagonist's character when they're under duress. How they respond to any antagonist or any difficult, cumbersome circumstance really is going to reveal a lot of their character that way. So I like the organic discovery of a pantser style. I do learn as I go. I do plot a little bit like bullet points because I don't want to be bereft of forward trajectory and know where I'm going. I want to have mile markers at certain points. But how I get there and how the characters get there, I like art to imitate life. So they may get a flat tire on the way, and that's okay.
So it sounds almost similar to the mindset that the author of Goosebumps, R.L. Stein, he once or said once upon a time that as long as you have the ending in mind, you can write anything. Would you say that's true for yours?
That's very true. In fact, I'm one of the few people that I know of who actually reverse engineers my stories. I will design the cover first. The cover is the very first thing that I'll design, and I if the cover is captivating enough, that gives me an end goal in sight to work towards because I want that to come to fruition. So if the cover is captivating enough and alluring and mysterious enough, and I can see a story there, it gives me a directional axis to point towards, and motivation to continue towards that point. It's really not true of everybody. I'm a little bit of an anomaly in that regard. I'm told I'm okay with it because I tend to be an anomaly in a number of areas of my life, so that's okay.
That is perfectly okay. We need more weirdness and anomalies. Helps the world
Yeah,
go
we
round.
do. We do.
So, how would you say you develop and stay connected with your characters over the course of a series?
So that's a difficult part. A series is stretched out over, two or more books, obviously. So you have to stay the course, as to quote George Bush, 1,000 points of light. You have to be willing to go for the long haul and make sure that you remember that character and stay in it. One of the things I'm doing right now that's really hard is balancing reading through the omnibus edition of my The End series. It's 3 books in one. I'm reading through the whole thing. It's a single paperback of all 3 books, and that's first person past tense. My current book I'm writing in first person present tense. So, that's different. And I'm embroiled in this story over here, recapping it and reliving it and re-experiencing it while I'm writing this story over here. So you have to keep them separated by at least a few hours. Like this I read in the evening and this I work on during the day.
Sure.
I think once you get into it and okay, it's writing time now, I'm going to focus, and you stay in that zone, it's manageable, but it is hard to do. Yeah, it is hard to do.
Okay. Let's move on to challenges and lessons. What would you say has been the biggest challenge in your writing career so far, and how did you overcome it?
Well, one of the things I've always been a big proponent of is just looking at expenses as investments, right?
Okay.
Um, as a self-published author, I've invested heavily in my career because I utterly believe in it, and this is the pivot that A, I want to make, and B, I believe God has called me to make this pivot from voiceovers and anything else to exclusively authoring someday. Um, and as such, it comes with a lot of investments as a self-published author to promote and to get the word out and get your books in front of people. Some of those investments, while presented as tried and true methods for really getting book sales going, have fallen flat. And I'm a person who trusts and believes, and so I've invested money for example into Facebook advertising, and there's a guy who has a course on how to successfully develop good Facebook advertising. It's a really big ask to tell someone on Facebook while they're there for social media to jump and bounce over here to Amazon to shop. It's a big ask. So I figured these ads would be challenging, but if they're done well enough and intriguing enough, they would work. It was a real substantial investment on my part that just didn't really produce the results that I thought or that they said I would. So that's been hard to swallow and live with. Um, I think as a writer, I wish, oops, there goes the phone. I think as a writer, I wish that I had known earlier about some of the key things that you can look out for as an author, like the scammers and the spammers. Uh, every industry is rife with them. The authoring industry is not immune by any stretch. And I've tried to just convey what I've learned about the pitfalls along the way. That these guys, they go ahead with you with pile drivers, and they drill holes in the road for you to deliberately fall into, so they can get your money. I wish people knew more about it. I wish, I wish. But hindsight's 2020, and shoulda, coulda, woulda. You just have to take the lessons that you learn and keep moving forward.
Okay. I'm making little mental notes of that right now for when I publish my book. Thank you. Next question. Is there a particular book or story that was especially difficult for you to write, be it emotional, technical, or other reasons?
It's a great question. All of them have been great questions. Just FYI, I don't mean to raise this one above the other. The other one sucked. This one's actually good.
They
Um,
only get more difficult from here.
brace yourself. Um, I think the current one, just given that it's an entirely different style of writing for me, first person present tense, um, is challenging. I've written several books now where there have been multiple first person perspectives. I thought those would be a challenge, but they really have not been. It's been fairly easy for me to slip in and out of those characters and write, this person and then that person and then bounce. One book I wrote had four first-person perspectives, and I loved it. Um, so this current book is a challenge. I think emotionally, the hardest book for me to write, because I'm still very, very much impacted to this day by 9/11, was my historical fiction thriller called Forecast.
Mm.
Every time, aside from the fact that it's dealing with a sensitive emotional topic, it's also historical fiction, which means you can't have someone in 2001 on an iPhone. You can't have them on an e-bike. Um, it's they don't those things didn't exist yet, and those were pitfalls I fell into. My character was riding an e-bike, and then I went, "Wait a minute, you can't do this."
No.
So it's eye-opening, but it was emotional, and I really wanted it to undo the deaths and the effects of 9/11. So um, that was my fictional setting where I could actually manifest a solution, and it brought me to tears. It leveled me, just like every death
Mm.
that every beloved character that I've had to kill off in various books. I'm such a sadist. Um, those hurt, those emotionally hurt
Right.
as
Right.
well. So the death of a beloved character can never be cavalier. It has to be a catalyst and serve a purpose for the protagonist.
I agree. How do you handle criticism or feedback? Speaking of tears, as we're told, never read the comments, but especially early on in the writing process, how do you handle, be it the good, bad, or indifferent feedback?
Well, the good people are awesome. The indifferent people don't matter, and the bad ones suck. So they're stupid. So you keep them in those columns, then you move on. Uh, it's always funny because people can hate me because my name is Aaron, and their former spouse was named Aaron, and so they're going to leave me a negative review because of that. Um, I think one of the weirdest reviews I ever got was someone who read Dissonance Volume One, Reality, and said something to the effect of the author left it, with a cliffhanger, like there's more to the series. And I went, hmm, yes, I see your point. Because because volume one doesn't in any way convey a continuation of a series. Um, you just have to either chalk it up to stupidity, uh, or missing the bigger picture. But one of the things I learned or I have learned in business and various modes of business over the past few decades is you cannot steer your life, or you cannot steer a car by the rear view mirror.
No.
You try to do that, you're going to crash into a tree every time. You can't steer your emotions, your life by the rearview mirror. And one of the best bits of advice I was ever given was by a voiceover casting agent, an entrepreneur named Liz Atherton. And she said, um, someone's endorsement of you or lack thereof has very little to do with your trajectory. I love that phrase because it connotes an unflappability, an indomitable spirit. I'm going to push through regardless of what they say. And I loved it so much that I actually had it emblazoned onto a little plaque here. So
Nice.
I have her phrase, and mwah, it means the world to me.
Love that. Let's switch gears to publishing and marketing. You clearly have had success in self publishing. What advice would you give to authors who are considering taking that path?
Do it. I would absolutely recommend do it. Traditional publishers are very selective. They have to find your book saleable, which means they have to find content in it that is unique, that is, marketable, that is going to connote sales. Will come out of this. And so, because they're going to pitch you to an agent, or agents are going to pitch you to publishers, or whatever. So, whoever you're pitching yourself to, your book needs to be really a standout. It can take a very, 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 very long time to reach anyone who actually sees that type of content in your book. It is. God gave you this incredible story, and you just want to share it with the masses, but they're really hard to convince. So, traditional publishers, they they're hard to get into. They take way too long to publish. They take all your creative control away from you. You don't command as high of royalties with them. You have to use their editors, their marketing team, blah blah blah. You're just kind of hamstrung. And for me, as an anomaly, or an entrepreneur, I like maintaining all of those controls here. I can get a book, I can write it in 3 weeks, I can publish it in 3 more after editing, and have a book out in a month and a half. Um, I can design the covers myself. I can market it the way I want to. I can brand myself my own way. If I have a change on a book, and you always do, you can re-upload the corrected copy like that. Um, you maintain all creative control. So if you are in any way an entrepreneur and self-motivated and driven, rather than letting someone else drive it for you, man, self-publishing is the way to go. You're going to have to market, but you're going to have to market even with a traditional publisher anyway. So commit to marketing it. If you believe in what you have written, you're going to want to market it anyway and share it with the world. So yeah, it's not everybody's cup of tea, but it sure tastes good with a little milk and some sugar.
How do you balance the creative side of writing with the business side of being an author?
I think there needs to not be such a fine line because, like I alluded to earlier, I'm a voiceover artist and an author, and so I bounce back and forth all day long. There is no rigid voiceovers end here, authoring ends here, authoring or begins here, authoring ends here, marketing starts here.
Right.
There is no there are no columns and boxes and termini termini. Uh, what is that? Do you want to get smoten from from Moana?
Right.
I don't. I just think you need to be fluid with it and be adaptable. The key in life, anyway, is just adapt and overcome. So, if you get an idea for a book cover, do that. If you get an inspirational streak to write more on this book and chip away at it, do that. If you want to do some marketing, do that. If you get some auditions that come in, do those. Just be able to bounce and roll with the punches. It's so important.
Okay. You mentioned earlier how God has placed on you to write these books. So, with that in mind, faith seems to be a thread in your work, particularly the end. How
Yeah.
does your personal belief system influence your storytelling?
It really does, and I love the question. So I'm a Christian unashamedly. When I wrote Dissonance, I was really conflicted with the marginal profanity that I felt I needed to include
Mm,
to communicate urgency and panic. Um, I'll do it sparsely. I don't. My readers don't need to read it. I don't really want to include it. And in the afterword of Dissonance Volume One Reality, you can see that due to my strong personal convictions, I wrestled with that because it's not an overtly Christian series. I would say it's covertly a faith-based series. The protagonist actually does accept Christ in Volume Three of Dissonance, but I nonetheless wrestled with the inclusion of profanity. So when I was done with Dissonance, I really literally felt God calling me to write clean Christian fiction with zero profanity. And I was a little incredulous, like, wow, can you really do this? Is this going to be cheesy, hokey, watered down, you know, Channel 9 Nova content, clean, everything? Is it going to be Bob Ross painting or is it going to have a little bit of grit? Um, it's not all happy trees in the end at all, but it does have a lot of grit, and it's completely bereft of profanity. So that's me living it out on that side. On the other side, man, I love Jesus. I cherish my faith. I want faith to be a recurring theme. One of the best phrases out of a movie ever was when President Snow is talking to the original game maker Seneca Crane in Hunger Games 1. He says, "Hope, it is the only thing stronger than fear." And hope goes right along with faith. um, the protagonists and all of the people affected by whatever calamity has overtaken them in these stories, they have to have something to latch on to. And I know what I latch on to. I know what brings me hope and faith. So yeah, it permeates my works. And there's a character named Pastor Rosie who's now crossed over into multiple other books out of Dissonance. She's made that jump. And I think that's very cool. So she's the epitome of faith.
that's fantastic. So now we're going to figuratively roll out the red carpet here. We're going to pull back the curtain just a wee bit. Can you give us a glimpse as far as looking ahead? What are you currently working on, and what can readers expect next from you?
Yeah, well, the next project I'm working, or the current project I'm working on, is called the Phoenix Experiment, and it takes place in the 25th century aboard a ship called the Origin, floating above the Earth. And the 14-year-old protagonist is named Jax Hudson. And futuristic names, androids, synthetics, AI is involved. AI is a very polarizing topic these days, and I felt I would address it carefully, um, also with a firebrand. But I'm looking forward to it. It's a challenging write, and I'm sure it'll be a challenging read. But I'm enjoying how it's coming along. Following that, I do have an idea that I'm toying with, which is a dissonance spin-off involving Pastor Rosie. I'm not solid on the idea for it yet. What I'm more excited about is my next series, because I really enjoy writing series, and it is called the Talisman series. And I'm going to play my cards close to the chest yet, but I did just post an image of it. The book cover looks fantastic. Like I said, I do the book cover first, work my way back. But I've got a great idea for a basic story that can go uh, any one of a number of directions, and that'll be probably a trilogy after I'm done with the Phoenix Experiment.
Sounds like a plan. If you could go back and give your younger writing self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Um, I would say be yourself. I love the Oscar Wilde phrase, "Be yourself. Everyone else is already taken." Um, we have too many people that are they're not tipping the hat. They're not giving a nod to their inspirations, whether it's Tom Clancy or Suzanne Collins or Tolkien or Asimov or whoever. They are mimicking them. And in a world of AI oversaturation, you have a lot of people that are just doing the same thing as everyone else, or trying to be the next Tolkien or the next whoever. I wish I would have not fallen prey to that myself, because I have. Um, it's really, really important to offer a unique story, to be your unique self and stand out uniquely in a saturated marketplace. So I wish I would have had a better sense of myself as an author when I first started, but I think I've gained that in due time, and I know who I am and who I'm supposed to be in this great big thing called authoring. Um, be unique, man. It's be yourself. Everyone else is already taken. Is just rings so true for me.
That's awesome. I've also heard something similar to that Oscar Wilde quote, to where you have to be an original because life's too short to be a copy.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. Lastly, before we wrap it up here, what do you hope readers walk away with after reading one of your books?
I hope they walk away going, "Wow, that was a great story." Um, I love being a storyteller. Number one, I love writing a book that people get very excited about. They can come away with a memorable adventure, a memorable experience where it was different than something else that they read. It stays with them, and they want the next book in the series, or they want the other content that I've written. It's really, I love getting reader mail where they say, "Man, why did you kill off so and so?" I can handle those emails. I deal with them well. But when they say, "I loved," when is your next book coming out? I love this one. I love that one. It's just really encouraging, because it's like giving a gift on Christmas. You hope they accept it, you hope they like it, and you hope it blesses them for a long time. A book is meant to be a story. A novel is meant to be enjoyed over and over again. You can plunge yourself back in. In fact, with the Lord of the Rings, I do it every winter. I'll plunge right back into Middle Earth all over again and read the entire saga. It's just one of those things that you want to be back there again. And I hope readers will take away. Aaron Ryan writes great stories. I hope also that they'll be able to say that about both Dissonance, because the screenplay is being pitched to streaming networks, and The End, which is already also been adapted for the screen, and it's one entry into two Christian film festivals so far.
That's
They're
awesome.
harder to get into. Yeah, I'm just that could be made into something as well. So hopefully they'll be able to say Aaron Ryan writes great books that turn into great movies. So we'll see.
Man, that's fantastic. Alrighty. So you, dear listener, that are listening to this podcast episode, you're thinking to yourself, I need to get my hands on the Dissonance book, or if you're feeling very indulgent, get all of his books. Aaron, where can they purchase your books? But more specifically, where can they find you online to keep track of updates and everything else in between?
Yeah. Favorite question, by the way. Love it. Thank you for asking it. It's always everybody's favorite question, right?
Of course.
Um, you can go to authoraaronryan.com. It's not awful Aaron Ryan. I need to be clear. It's not awful Aaron Ryan. It's authoraaronryan.com. Uh, but I did actually, I kept saying that. It was my little joke. I said, I think I'm going to reserve awfulaaronryan.com. So if you go there mistakenly, it will forward you to author Aaron Ryan. So got to cover all bases, right? So authoraaronryan.com has all the links and the interwebs socials. You can look up author Aaron Ryan on any of the socials. They're all there. Author Aaron Ryan is the main site. Alienssaga.com is the site for Dissonance. Thisisnottheend.com is the site for the End Saga. And I think you'll just you'll find everything at one of those three sites. You might go, man, I've had enough of Aaron Ryan now. Way too many websites.
Ah. Well, Aaron, thank you so much once again for coming onto the show and entertaining us with your knowledge and, more importantly, your passion for storytelling. It really means a lot. I truly appreciate you.
No, I appreciate you having me on. One of the best bits of advice I was ever given was if you want to get better at marketing, stop marketing. Instead, be an enthusiast. And I'm very enthusiastic about my books and the stories God's given me. So got to do it. Got to be it.
That is awesome. And listener, thank you so much for tuning in this month, August 2025, for this edition of Idiosyncratic Fables. I truly appreciate each and every one of you who are listening. That is going to conclude our time today. And so until I talk to you next time, remember, everybody has a story to tell, and I
Yeah.
want to hear yours. So until then, peace be with you.